Black and white line tonight, Keith?
Oh, we'll need to think of one. Or maybe that was it.
Perhaps.
And welcome to Overtime, brought to you by KingsCast at www.kingscast.net. I'm Keith Korneluk.
And I'm Chris Kalaszewski.
Welcome back, Chris Kalaszewski, fresh back from Mexico, all massaged and relaxed. And here we are talking about Kings hockey.
That's right, Kings fans. We're back after a brief hiatus here to talk about the Nashville game, the Columbus game, talk about Jeff Carter, talk about the goalie situation, and also present our reasons why Columbus, Ohio sucks.
It's episode 146 entitled Jack Johnson Strikes Back.
All right, Kings fans, so we're back here to talk about the Los Angeles Kings. Now, Keith, the Kings are on a Midwest roadie.
Oh, yeah.
Tough one, I would say. You know, started off in Nashville. They had a great game last week when they played each other, and, looking for another big matchup tonight. And I expected more of a defensive battle. You know, the teams are playing really well. Kings are heating up. They're scoring some goals. You know, Nashville's trying to solidify their playoff position. And they go into the game, and it turns into an offensive explosion. Like, I don't even know who this Kings team is anymore.
Chris, when Jonathan Quick craps the bed, usually it's game over for the Los Angeles Kings. Luckily, Pekka Rinne did as well. Yep. Soft goals by both goaltenders. They were not looking like Vezina candidates, which they actually are. But the Kings took advantage, getting a couple of goals from fluky goals from Justin Williams.
Take them.
Yeah, it was a fun game to watch. It was like NHL 12 on the easy mode.
Yeah, I know exactly. It was nice to see Justin Williams score. He's a guy that he's been picking up a little bit lately. Same with Dustin Brown. You know, the guys getting points, the guys who should be. They just could not stop it. It was sort of a back and forth game. You know, the Kings surprisingly were not behind at all in the game, which usually doesn't happen. But, they were able to pull it off with the win. Even Matt Green had a goal, for God's sakes. He has 4. How many does Penner have again? How many does Lewis have again?
There you go. It was definitely an interesting game to watch, and it was nice to actually pull one out. And, of course, I think this road trip is probably going to make or break the Kings season. You know, we're going to know rather quickly whether or not we're going to be out of it. And if we're in it, it's going to be right up into the wire. And it's definitely a tough one. We win that Nashville game 5-4, surprisingly. And coming in to this evening against the Columbus Blue Jackets in Columbus, Jeff Carter makes his return to Columbus. And, before we even talk about the game, Chris, what a brilliant marketing promotion by the Blue Jackets. If you take your Jeff Carter jersey to their team store by the end of the first period, they will replace it with Jack Johnson for free.
Hey, I thought that was a brilliant idea. Hey, finally, I've never heard of a team actually doing that, but they definitely nailed it with that one. You know, Jack Johnson has sort of become a hero all of a sudden out there. You know, finally they have a number one defenseman. Wisniewski's pissed. He thought he was that guy, but, good for him. You know, obviously a lot of Kings fans are attached to Jack Johnson, and to see him go, it was kind of tough. But, yeah, I'd like the campaign, and Jack Johnson was fired up tonight to play his former team. More fired up than I think Jeff Carter was to play his former team.
Well, the big thing about Jack Johnson is when Drew Doughty went down, he stepped it up quite a bit. And now that he really is the guy in Columbus, are you going to see a new Jack Johnson, a new level of play? And he was quoted, I think Bob Miller interviewed him earlier today, saying something to the effect of he had to learn a new style of play with the Los Angeles Kings, and now with Columbus, they're just letting him play. First couple of games, a lot of Jack Johnson minuses, but he's been on a bit of a point tear. And then, of course, tonight, as we enter the BJ's Arena, Jack Johnson gets himself the game-winning goal.
Yeah, he really did. You know, we saw this coming from a mile away. Look at the schedule, and you're like, oh, yes, on paper we should blow him out of the water. But, you played this team that has nothing to play for. Jack Johnson's fired up. The Kings have everything to lose. And the Kings didn't score a goal except for Kopitar's shorty.
Which is a nice goal at that. But, look, Columbus right now is playing playoff spoiler. And, this is a must-win game for the Kings. I think we're in 9th right now, or we were in 9th as of today. So it was an opportunity for us to finally get back into that 8th spot. It's a game you have to win every time if you're an elite team. This is not an easy road trip coming up. We got Detroit tomorrow night in Detroit. I mean, granted, they're banged up, but still, it's Detroit in Detroit. It just seemed like a lazy effort from the Los Angeles Kings tonight. Really nothing going for them. I thought Bernier actually kept them in the game, even though the final score was 3-1. But, God, it was rough.
Yeah, it was rough. And, on the flip side, we talk about Jeff Carter, coming back. Of course, being booed every time. That wasn't unexpected. So he wasn't as fired up as I thought he would be. I thought he would, at least get some points. But we're talking about a guy who's played, 6 games with the Kings now?
Yep.
Has 2 goals. We almost had a Hattie there against the Ducks last week, but maybe we would like him to be scoring a little bit more, but still, Mike Richards hasn't scored in like 22 games or something.
He's got 1 goal in 31 games.
I mean, that's horrendous. I mean, you look at the Kings, who we were really expecting to score this year. You look at the Jarrett Stolls and even the Dustin Penners. I mean, Trevor Lewis. I mean, these guys are having an awful season, and it's still one of those mind-boggling things. I don't know really what to contribute it to, But you look at the rest of the standings in the Pacific, and no one really wants to win this division.
What happened to the division, Chris? Because, back last year, the year before, the Pacific Division was the division to be in. It was the most competitive, the hardest working, and now we're kind of the redheaded stepchild of the National Hockey League. San Jose not playing very well. Phoenix has, crapped the bed a few times. Dallas, I mean, really, everyone's in it, and everyone is also out of it.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely not going to be one of those years where we come, the Stars are like 1 point away from making the playoffs, having all 5 teams make the playoffs last year. That's definitely not going to happen.
No.
Maybe we see 2 teams from the division make it, but it's going to be tough, and it's this next 6 weeks that are going to be huge to see who's going to take it. It really is. Even the Ducks, even though they're 8 points behind, can still essentially win the division. So it's huge. So it's anyone's for the taking, and I'm hoping the Kings are that team.
Well, let's talk about, moving forward, Chris, and Jonathan Quick, in the Vezina conversation. Pierre LeBrun mentioned him for Hart conversation. I don't think that that's going to happen. But we're running into a very similar problem that we had last year, and that Quick tires out at the end of the season because he plays like 79 of 81, 82 games. And very similar situation. Obviously, you have to play Jonathan Bernier tonight. Quick needs to be fresh tomorrow against Detroit. But to me, unless Daryl Sutter plays Jonathan Bernier like 40% of the time, through the rest of the season, we're looking at, him in a Game 3 situation like we had against San Jose last year, where we're up, 4-1, and we end up losing.
Yeah, no, it's definitely concerning because Bernier is still looking rusty. He's played well, I thought, the last 7 starts he's had, but I think he's had 3 starts in the last 23 games. I mean, it's just Quick needs to rest. I know Sutter's whole philosophy is, we have a number 1 guy. I'm going to play the number 1 guy, and I get that, but you do have to sort of stagger it a little bit. And I think this was the last of the back-to-backs for the season for the Kings, which is good. But does that mean that Quick is going to play every single game from now on? I mean, I'm definitely concerned about that, but Bernier needs to get some more time.
Well, I get the philosophy of wanting to play your number 1 goaltender when you're in a position like this where you need to win every night. But the difference before is that, Daryl Sutter didn't have sort of a 1A, 1C situation like we do in Los Angeles. Bernier definitely capable of being a number 1 goaltender somewhere. Yeah. But, you have to give Jonathan Quick a rest. You really do. I think the team plays well in front of Bernier. Obviously not tonight. It was very lazy, but you got to get him in so Jonathan Quick can stay fresh.
Yeah, look at the rest of the schedule here. The next 2 weeks they play, like we said, Detroit. Then they play at Chicago. And then they come back and play Detroit again. And I think they'll play the Boston Bruins next week. And this schedule is brutal.
All right, so Kings fans, we've created a little segment for you, Kings in Columbus today. And we present to you the top 10 reasons why Columbus sucks.
Number 10. It's Columbus.
Number 9, you can't buy alcohol after 1 a.m.
Number 8, it makes Manchester, New Hampshire seem spectacular.
Cleveland took a crap and out came Columbus.
The public transportation is actually worse than Los Angeles.
You either work in a call center or you don't work.
Number 4, Jack Johnson is actually stoked to play there.
A giant mini mall in Columbus. Same thing.
Number 2, it thinks it's cool like Austin. It is not.
And finally, the number 1 reason why Columbus sucks, you can't buy cornflakes on Sunday. Yes, that's true.
All right, Kings fans, our contest/drawing is finally concluded. Special thanks to the hundreds of people who sent in their pictures, of the ice at Staples Center. We got some really cool stuff. We have a nice project here coming up in the next couple weeks once we compile all those things. But we have our final contest winner, and the winner of this very special Kings alumni puck is Melinda Loomis, who sits in section 106, and this is a signed puck of Jeff Giuliano.
You're welcome. All right, Kings fans, we make this joke a lot, but today, it's your question of the day. Will the Kings make the playoffs? Leave your comments or video responses downstairs. All right, Kings fans, we'll be right back at you on Tuesday after the Detroit game at the Stape. Look forward to that. I'm Keith Korneluk.
And I'm Chris Kalazewski.
Thanks for watching Overtime by KingsCast.